Raider touchdowns. The Chargers, though, weren't quitting, and a wild first half ended with the Raiders in doubtful command, 31-21. Perhaps dismayed that they had allowed the Chargers 21 first-half points, the Oakland defense stiffened and shut out San Diego the rest of the afternoon. In the meantime, the offense put the capper on another important victory. More than 5,000 Raider fans made the journey south to watch Oakland win 41-21. Their trip was a happy one. Visions of a title hovered over the East Bay. Oakland was 10-1 and led San Diego by a game and a half with just 3 to play. The Raiders finished their road campaign the following week against a rising young Houston Oiler team, which was in the process of completing one of the most remarkable turnabouts in AFL history. Last in their division in 1966, Houston was about to overtake New York at the top of the Eastern standings. In the thick of their own title fight, badly wanting to knock off the rocketing Raiders, the Oilers reached an emotional peak on a chilly, dreary day in Rice Stadium. Near the close of the first half, Pete Beathard connected with fullback Hoyle Granger for the score. Oakland trailed at half 7-0. After Willie Brown stopped another Houston threat with an interception, the Raiders offense went to work and cranked up a seemingly interminable 17-play drive that ended in their first score of the day. A short field goal by George Blanda. Houston's lead was 7-3, and from Miami came news that San Diego trailed the Dolphins. Another Raider drive, and another Blanda field goal. Oakland inched closer, 7-6. Miami still led the Chargers. Literally smelling the money, the 11 angry men became nearly impregnable. In the raw night air, the game turned into a grim battle, reducing itself to basic football, strength against strength. Blanda once again found the range, and the Raiders finally led, 9-7. Miami had increased its lead over San Diego. Houston had the ball but 3 plays before Dan Connor stole a pass. The offense, and Hewitt Dixon took over. Touchdown, Oakland. Miami was now comfortably ahead of the Chargers, and the dedicated Silver and Black Raiders were moments away from a Western Division championship. George Blanda closed the door on his old teammates with another field goal, his 4th of the day. The Raiders won 19-7, and the win streak stretched to 8 in a row. Minutes after the game, the San Diego defeat was announced, and the Raiders were officially champions of the West. Their own division race finished, the Raiders closed out the season at home against the New York Jets and Buffalo Bills. They won both games to run their season's record to an amazing 13-1, best in league history. In the Jets game, the Raider defense had its hands full with New York's brilliant quarterback, Joe Namath. Earlier in the year, Namath had been instrumental in beating the Raiders. The game featured some great Raider defense. That included a crucial goal line stand. That also included these two important second-half plays by linebacker John Robert Williamson, both of which led to touchdowns. The Raider offense was aided by fine blocking. This is won by Warren Wells on a long gainer to Fred Biletnikoff. Now good blocking efforts in the offensive line by top draftee Gene Upshaw and all-league guard Wayne Hawkins on a tough run by Pete Banaszak. The Raiders' victory margin was 39-28. 1 week later, John Rauch's men decisioned the Buffalo Bills 28-21. On New Year's Eve 1967, pro football's young and dynamic organization, the Silver and Black Oakland Raiders, played the Houston Oilers for the championship of the 8-year-old American Football League. Pre-game speculation centered around the question of Oakland's ability to score on a defense that had allowed the fewest points of any team in pro football. On the other hand, could the 11 angry men check the freight train rushes of fullback Hoyle Granger and Woody Campbell? Houston kicked off to the Raiders, and those questions began to be answered. A first-period Oiler drive was stopped when Dan Connors stole a pass right out of the arms of Alvin Reed. The Oilers could gain little ground against the characteristically stubborn Oakland defense. Two important second-quarter plays turned a close game into a comfortable Raider lead. Oakland's great 8-time All-League center Jim Otto made an important block on Hewitt Dixon's 69-yard touchdown gallop. The Raiders got another drive going, but with seconds remaining in the half, seemed forced to settle for an attempt at 3 points. The field goal alignment, though, was a fraud. Lamonica instead passed to Dave Kusurik for a touchdown and a halftime lead of 17-0. Mike Eichide continued to punt as he had throughout the season, with distance and accuracy. Oakland dominated the second half as they had the first, and the afternoon belonged to the Raiders and their fans. The final was 40-7. Losers of 19 straight games in 1961 and 62, the once pitiful Raiders had become the unquestioned champions of the American Football League. The 53,330 who sat so comfortably that afternoon in the Coliseum to watch a tough, single-minded, carefully constructed football apparatus dismantle the Houston Oilers was a far cry from the handful who short years before had watched the Raiders play in temporary homes. Those loyal fans who had supported the club from the beginning deserved a championship, perhaps more than any other fans in the history of sports. Then it was on to Miami as the AFL champion Oakland Raiders flew east on their chartered United Airlines DC-8. The Raiders, like 9 of the 10 AFL teams, fly the friendly skies of United. In the second AFL-NFL World Championship game, the Raiders met the monarchs of professional football, the Green Bay Packers. Each team's offense scored 2 touchdowns, but the differences were 4 Packer field goals and costly Oakland mistakes. Raiders had their moments, including 2 scoring passes to split end Bill Miller, but not enough of them. And Green Bay, as it had done so consistently in its own league, won decisively 33-14. Despite the loss to Green Bay, 1967 will be remembered as a great season. John Rauch was named the AFL's Coach of the Year. He was assisted by this outstanding staff. Defensive line coach Tom Doms, an All-American at San Diego State. Linebacker coach John Madden, an all-conference tackle at Cal Poly. Coach of the defensive secondary, Charlie Sumner, a brilliant offensive back at William & Mary. Ollie Spencer, a former Kansas University great, coaches the Raider offensive line, and John Polanchek, who starred at Michigan State, is the offensive backfield coach. George Anderson is among the top trainers in sports, and Dick Romansky, once a little All-America quarterback, is the team's equipment manager. Team doctor Ken Small, who has been with the Raiders since 1960, completes the club's on-the-field staff. With the winning of their first AFL championship, the Raiders reached a plateau. In 1963, Al Davis, now managing owner, came to Oakland dedicated to the development of the Raiders as the finest organization in professional sports. Excellent progress has been made. Now, in 1968, the Silver and Black again prepare to assume their role as the standard bearer of this great East Bay community. The rivalries of the American Football League have become fierce and violent. They have turned friendships into hostilities. 1968 will be the most difficult in the club's 9-year history. The Chargers, the Jets, the Chiefs, the Oilers, and the rest of the AFL teams will be taking their best shot at the champions, the Raiders of Oakland. It is more difficult to defend a title than to win it. Al Davis has said the challenge ahead is a tremendous one. But no matter how great that challenge, the Oakland Raiders intend to meet it, as usual, with pride and poise.
NFL football was brought to you by Gillette, makers of the Track 2 shaving system and the Dry Look hair groom for men. Gillette, first in its league, first with men for almost 75 years.